Oh no, it's starting. This meeting is being live streamed. All right. I think we're good. Oh, good. We're live. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this week's live training. In today's live training, we're going to talk about if you can eat any foods that you want and still lose weight. You might hear Peyton in the background screaming. She's having a little snack. That's totally fine. But we're going to hop into today's training. Again, we're going to talk all about if you have to eat a specific set of foods in order to lose weight, or if you can kind of get away with eating whatever you want and still lose weight. Now, I asked this on my social media this week, and I would probably say 70 to 75% of people said it is true that you can still eat whatever you want and still lose weight. And the thinking behind that, obviously, is calories in versus calories out. If you burn more calories than you eat, it doesn't really matter. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't really matter what you eat. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you're still going to lose weight. But when I followed up with a lot of the people, I asked if those people gave up specific foods when they want to lose weight, and most of them said, yes, I give up certain foods if I want to lose weight. So that doesn't really go along with the thinking. So I wanted to make this training to talk about this because it's more complicated than you think. So let me share my screen here, and we're going to get started. Share screen, presentation. Got my fancy presentation, slideshow, play from start. All right, here we go. So I just put the dog on there and a cheeseburger because those are two things that I love. So can you eat any foods and still lose weight? Can you eat? So the short answer is yes. The long answer is it depends. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Done. Presentation's over with. No, just kidding. All right, moving on. So obviously calories matter. This is the people who said, yes, it's true that you can lose weight and still eat any foods that you want. It's because calories do matter. Calories in versus calories out. To lose weight, you need to eat less calories than you burn. And as long as you stay in that caloric deficit, you are going to lose weight. It's how the body works. So in order to do that, you need to figure out how many calories that you burn in a day. That's the first step. The second step is to take those calories, put yourself in a deficit. So maybe like 10% or 20% reduction in calories. So let's say you eat 2,000 calories or you burn 2,000 calories in a day. So you have to subtract 10% of those calories, and that's going to put you in a deficit. And if you consistently stay in that deficit, you are going to lose weight. So you have to figure out how many calories you burn in a day. You need to consistently eat less than that. So coming back to the overall question, can you eat any foods that you want and still lose weight? Yeah, of course. So if you have 2,000 calories in a day, that's going to put you in a deficit. You can eat 500 calories of those 2,000 calories as bad foods, whatever you want. And then you eat 1,500 calories of good foods that still has you in a deficit, which means you're going to lose weight. All right. So yes, you can, but let's dive a little bit deeper here. I've kind of listed some foods that are pretty popular that people like, that people don't really want to give up when they start dieting. So a slice of pizza has about 285 calories. Obviously, these are ranges here. It depends on like the pizza place and the type of pizza, things like that. So one slice of pizza has roughly 285 calories. That's not like 3,000 calories. That's not 3,500 calories, which is a pound of fat. That's only 285 calories. That can easily fit into your diet. One chocolate chip cookie has about 150 to 200 calories, unless you're getting it from crumble cookies, which is one of my favorite, that's going to have like 600 to 800 calories, but that's a different story. One cupcake has about 150 to 200 calories. One glazed donut has 270 calories on average. One serving of a chocolate bar, if you actually have a serving, is 160 calories. So my point here is just including these foods in your diet isn't going to magically make you gain weight or stop you from losing weight. It's a certain amount of calories. And if you still burn more than the calories that you're eating overall in the day, then it doesn't really matter. There's an asterisk on that. All right, let's move on. So the problem with this is, one, do you actually know how many calories you are burning and eating in a day? Most people have no idea how many calories they burn in a day. Most people don't know how many calories they need to eat in order to lose weight. Most people don't even know, even if they know how many calories they have to eat, most people don't know what that even looks like. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is, can you track every single thing that you eat? This goes along with number one. So like things like kids' snacks, if you have snacks around the house and you're just grabbing a couple random bites, things like that. Are you tracking all of that? Because those calories can add up too. Problem number three is, can you do it accurately? This may be tough with like pre-made items, and like lengthy ingredient lists. So like if you buy a cupcake or a cookie or I don't know, a slice of cake or something like that, we're talking bad foods here because that's what this presentation is about. A lot of that stuff, you have no idea what goes in there. So how do you even measure, like, are you measuring a slice of cake and then putting it in your tracking app or something like that? So it can be tough to actually track that and know how many calories you're actually getting with these pre-made items or lengthy ingredient lists. I always say, like, these fancy recipes that people make, especially for following some diets, they try to make healthier versions of unhealthy foods. It ends up being like 25 things on the ingredient list that you have to make. And it's like, that's a pain in the butt to actually go in and try to track every little thing ingredient to be accurate. So that's something to think about too. Now, diving a little bit deeper into our association with food, our relationship with food is, can you only eat one cookie without going back for 5 more? Because I know I have I struggle with that. If I have that one cookie, it's only 150 to 200 calories. If I end up going back for 4 more cookies, now we're talking 1,000 calories. Now we are talking to, enough calories to easily put us in a surplus, which is actually going to make us gain weight. So it's that relationship with food. Does eating 1 lead to eating 5? Then if that's the case, then maybe eating 1 is the overall problem. It comes back to eating sugary and highly palatable foods that taste really, really good. These overly flavored foods, they usually make us want more. So that's just something to think about. Obviously, yes, you can give yourself a little leeway and have whatever you want in your diet. But if it's gonna cause you to have more and overeat, then obviously that's a problem. So I also wanted to put this in here just to throw it in here. You can also still overeat on good calories too. So 20 almonds, which, like, you might be thinking like, oh, that's only 20. That's enough almonds. It's so easy to eat 20 almonds, and that's 160 calories right there. So this goes the same with like peanut butter, which I have listed here, nut bars. Anything with nuts are super packed with calories, and you really have to watch out for how much you're eating those, because you can easily overeat on those. Also, another huge one where people get in trouble is 1 tablespoon of olive oil, which is like nothing, is 120 calories. So you might cook with like 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil, which is getting on your food and that you're taking in easily a couple hundred of extra calories right there just with your cooking. Same thing with like salads, and especially at restaurants or pre-made salads, they tend to use on average like 3 tablespoons of oil just in your dressing. So that's an extra 360 calories just of your dressing right there. All right, so that's something to look out for with your good calories. And then something like granola, like a half cup of granola, which again, I'll get touched on this in a second. Half a cup of granola is 226 calories. And this also comes back to like, do you know how much you're actually eating? Because a half a cup of granola is not much. It's really easy if you're eyeballing it to be like, well, I'm just going to fill the bowl. And it ends up being like 3.5 cups of granola. So something to look out for there. So what is the best strategy to lose weight? I realize this is kind of blocking some of the slides. Well, one strategy is to actually track. It kind of gives you that leeway of giving you a set calorie amount, and you have to just stay under that. You can kind of track some foods. It gives you leeway into having something like pizza or some bad foods. And it gets you, so you get to know how many calories you actually need in a day to lose weight. You get to know the portions for your meals because you're tracking what you eat. You can stick, this goes along with, if you want to actually track, you want to try to stick to whole foods because those are easiest to track. Because going back to my previous point a few slides ago, if you have something that's really complicated to track, it's going to be a pain in the butt and you're not going to do it. So stick to more of the whole foods to easily track what you're eating. And then one other strategy is to pre-package your bad foods. And what I mean by this is, like, if you really want like 2 cookies for the day, what I would do is take the 2 cookies out of the box and put it in a separate Tupperware and put that, whether like in your lunchbox or in your cabinet first thing where you see it. And that is your portion for the day. If you leave if you're going to go for 2 Oreos, but it's in a sleeve of Oreos, chances are you're probably going to grab 3. You're going to go back and have 2 more. You're going to go back and have 2 more. But if it's pre-packaged, it's a better strategy and you're more likely to just stick to that serving. All right. Just something to think about. No, what happened? There we go. So non-tracking strategies. Focus on whole foods. Stay away from processed foods. Yes, this goes against this whole argument of, yes, you can eat whatever you want and still lose weight. But if you're not going to track, then I would suggest focusing more on whole foods, staying away from processed foods. Highly processed foods are normally super calorie dense and very easy to overeat. If you have problem foods that you overeat, try to get rid of them. This goes back to the point, like I said, if you have one and it leads to 5, then that one might be the problem and you shouldn't have it around. You can also, if you have to keep these foods in your house, don't keep them in plain sight. Put them in a separate cabinet that you don't go into, or put them in the back of the cabinet so it's not the first thing that you see when you open your cabinet. Focus on eating protein. Fill up on your protein. Now, this is going to be meat, fish, Greek yogurt, tofu, tempeh. This is not nuts or beans. Nuts are super fatty and they lead to overeating and calories. Beans are super high carbohydrates. They lead to overeating. Your meal should not be based on just those 2. You should build your meal off a solid source of protein. That's going to fill you up quicker and you're going to make you feel better. Protein is very, very important to the body. And it's really hard to overeat. All right. So focus on eating protein. Another tip, limit your snacking, especially at work. It's so easy. If you're working, you're in the zone and you're just like grabbing almonds, that healthy snack, grabbing almonds and snacking on them. Or if you're in a workplace that keeps around like candy or peanut M&Ms, it's so easy to just grab a handful and snack while you're working. That leads to a ton of extra calories that you eat. Read the serving size. This is something that like no one does unless you do track, but this is something that no one does. Read the damn serving size. Like if you are eating a chocolate bar, turn it around and look. You're going to be surprised. The serving size of a chocolate bar is like, there's like 2.5 servings in a bar. So you got to split that up. Same thing with like peanut butter or granola or whatever it is. If it has a label, just take a look at the serving size and see how many servings per package it is. One of my favorites was Gayaki, or I don't know how the hell to pronounce it. Whatever iced tea, I love them. They're so good. I used to drink them all the time. And then it was the Enlightened Mint. That was my favorite one. I'm like, damn, this is good. It's iced tea. It's good for me, blah, blah, blah. And then I turned it over and looked at the label. And in one can, which I easily drank, there were 2.5 servings in one can. And there were like, I don't know, like the label is per serving. So there were like, I don't know, but off the top of my head, I'll just say like 10 grams of added sugar in a serving. And I was drinking 2.5 servings easily right there, maybe 1 to 2 per day. So like, you got to really pay attention to the serving size on the label. This leads into my next point. Don't drink liquid calories. They're so easy to add up. Stick to water, stick to black coffee, stick to tea that is not sweetened like the one in my can. Instead, don't drink your calories. And then another strategy that people like to do is like an 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. fast. So you stop eating at 8 p.m. and you don't eat again until 8 a.m. It just kind of closes that eating window, which can tend to reduce to eating less calories. But you don't have to get so fixated on this. A lot of people get so fixated, they extend it. They want to go 16 hours. They want to go 20 hours and close that feeding window. You really don't need to do that. Just do 8 p.m., cut it off. It'll help your sleep as well. And then extend it to 8 a.m. All right. It just shuts off that feeding window. So you're not like going to bed, eating, and the first thing you do is eat when you wake up. All right. So overall, can you eat any foods and still lose weight? Yes, but to a limit. Processed foods are really easy to overeat. They can make you overeat. If you can control it, then sure, go for it. But processed foods can also throw off your digestion and make you feel bad, make you have less energy, which can lead to cravings, which can lead to overeating too. So that's just something to be aware of. Follow the steps on the previous slides to either track your calories or not. Tracking can give you a little bit more leeway because when you have a set calorie amount, you can fit foods into that. But if you don't know your calorie amount, then you might want to follow some of the strategies that I just presented. And then finally, give yourself a little freedom to enjoy your favorite foods. When you're following a diet, don't just go super strict. Don't just go like turkey, broccoli, and sweet potato for every single meal. And if you go off, you failed your diet. I like to call it, have it a treat meal each week, not a cheat meal, have a treat meal, treat yourself every week. The under 300 calorie rule, this is something that I like to use as well. Like if you have something bad around you, like a cookie or something like that, if you have a general idea of how many calories are in it, if you're only having 300 or less calories of it, it's probably not going to throw you off completely, and you can adjust the rest of your day of eating because it's not that significant of calories. Now, again, if you have like 3 of those cookies, it ends up being like 600, 800 calories, then it becomes a problem. But if it's 300 calories or less, in general, it's not going to be a huge factor on your weight loss. And then finally, don't overthink it. And don't punish yourself if you do go off your diet. Enjoy the foods. It's not realistic to, 1 second here. Oh, stop share. There it is. It's not realistic to stick to like the basic foods for every single meal for the rest of your life or for when you are dieting. Give yourself a little bit of a freedom. You can still eat all your favorite foods and still lose weight. Yes, it comes down to calories in versus calories out. But again, I want to push the point home. Just be cautious of if it's going to lead to overeating. Okay. And I would highly suggest you get to know how many calories you're burning in a day, how many calories you need to eat to lose weight. And try tracking. You don't have to track for the rest of your life, but try tracking. It'll really help you lose weight. And again, it'll give you a little bit more freedom when it comes to food choices. All right. Well, that's it for me today. Give me 1 second. I'm going to check my Facebook to see if we're good. Yeah, I think we're okay. All right. So if you have any follow-up questions on this, feel free to comment on here. I'm going to leave this presentation up for a little bit. If you're catching the replay, you can still comment on it. I'll go back and check, or you can, of course, always send me a message and I'd be happy to follow up with you. All right. Thank you for coming on this live presentation or watching the replay. I hope this helps you, and I will see you for the next one. Adios.